Italy is a nation in south-central Europe that sits atop a peninsula jutting far into the Mediterranean Sea. It's common to refer to Italy as a boot-shaped country, plus it has some of the planet's most diverse and beautiful landscapes. The Alps, one of the most untamed mountain ranges in the world, are situated at its broad top. The highest points in Italy are located along Mont Blanc, which has a peak in France, and along Monte Rosa, which has a peak in Switzerland. The Western Alps overlook a region of alpine lakes and valleys that descend to the Po River and the Piedmont. The most well-known region in the nation is perhaps Tuscany, which is south of the Cisalpine region. Did you know that in the town of Miralonda, a record-breaking hailstone was found? This hailstone was a massive 19 centimeters in diameter. If you love our content, don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more amazing videos. What are the great Italian cities, and what makes their culture unique? Italian cities and culture. Italy's uneven terrain has affected its political geography. Italy's villages and cities have a history of self-sufficiency, independence, and mutual mistrust because there aren't many direct roadways connecting them, and getting from one place to another is typically challenging. Today's tourists remark on the distinct variances between each town, the noticeable variations in cuisine and dialect, and other subtle nuances that make Italy appear less like a single nation than a collection of culturally connected locations in an unusually beautiful setting. That's because, over the course of its more than 3,000-year history, Italy has experienced periods of intercommunal conflict, brief unity, and protracted division, as well as failed empires. But Italy has been at peace for more than 50 years, and its citizens benefit from a high level of life and a well-developed culture. In comparison to the early 20th century, when the economy was mostly agricultural, the entire nation is now comparatively rich, with a GDP of $2.1 trillion generated by its 58.8 million people. Tourism plays a significant role in the country's success, since in prosperous years there are almost as many tourists as residents. Italy is a member of the European Union, the Council of Europe, and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO. It also occupies a strategically significant position on the southern flank of Europe. Rome, the country's capital, is one of the oldest and most famous cities in the world. Tourists love to visit Rome to see its magnificent buildings and works of art, as well as partake in the city's renowned Dolce Vita, or Sweet Life. Other significant towns include the enormous southern metropolis of Naples, the industrial and fashion hub of Milan, the attractive port city of Genoa, and Venice, one of the oldest tourist attractions in the world. UNESCO has recommended that Venice be placed on the Heritage Danger List. This is due to the city's sinking and flooding problems. Could this be as a result of climate change? Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Vatican City, the seat of the Roman Catholic Church and spiritual home of Italy's predominantly Catholic population, is an autonomous state surrounded by Rome. In spite of the levelling effects of the mass media and standardized education, each of these cities, as well as numerous smaller ones, has managed levelling onto its unique characteristics. So it comes as no surprise that the Italian Parliament has approved a bill to criminalise surrogacy even abroad. This means that it will now be illegal for Italian citizens to use surrogacy services in other countries. Thus, a lot of Italians, especially older ones, have a tendency to think of themselves as belonging first to their families, then to their neighbourhoods, then to their towns or their regions, and last as citizens of a country. Italy as a nation has been welcoming immigrants from several less developed nations since the 1970s, with an influx of mostly men from North Africa, migration from the Philippines and other Asian nations, primarily female. Immigration from Eastern Europe increased dramatically after many former Soviet bloc nations joined the European Union in 2004 and 2007. Around 5 million foreigners lived on Italian soil at the beginning of the 21st century, with roughly half of them being from Eastern Europe. Hundreds of thousands of refugees, many of whom having made the perilous Mediterranean crossing, arrived in Italy as the post-Arab Spring revolutions drove portions of the Middle East and North Africa into conflict. According to a recent report by the UN High Commission for Refugees, the number of migrants arriving on Italian coasts between January and March was more than 3 times what the nation reported during the same period the previous year. In comparison to the first 3 months of 2022, when 6,400 migrants arrived in Italy by sea, almost 26,800 did so this year. The Sicilian island of Lampedusa, frequently referred to as Europe's gateway to the Mediterranean, saw around 1,000 arrivals on Easter Sunday alone. 23 migrants drowned en route to the island shores the day before, out of the 679 migrants who arrived there. According to the Italian news agency ANSA, Lampedusa's immigration centre has a capacity to house roughly 400 people, but it was overflowing with more than 1,880 migrants over the Easter holiday. It's not the first time the tiny Italian island has been overcrowded. In 2015, it saw thousands of landings at the height of the Mediterranean migrant crisis. But Lampedusa and the Italian government are still battling to deal with the increase in the number of migrants arriving on the island and the overcrowding of its facilities. More recently, 4 Tunisians have been arrested for piracy over engine thefts from migrant boats in the Mediterranean Sea. This is the latest of a long list of havoc wreaked upon migrants from the African continent by pirates and treachery of the Mediterranean. But what makes Italy so attractive? The Italian economy. Following World War II, the Italian economy was among the poorest in all of Europe. Today, it is among the strongest. Its metallurgical and engineering sectors are its strong suits, while a lack of raw resources and energy sources are its limitations. In Italy, imports account for more than half of the country's energy needs. However, the chemical industry also does well, and one of Italy's biggest sectors is textiles. Following the war, liberal trade policies and strong entrepreneurial learning allowed manufactured exports to grow at an astounding rate. But heavy bureaucracy and inadequate planning hampered a uniform economic growth across the nation. Services, especially tourism, are also crucial. At the close of the 20th century, Italy brought its high inflation under control and pursued more cautious fiscal policies, including extensive privatization, in an effort to achieve parity with other EU countries. One of the main success stories for Italy following World War II was the growth of its economy. Between 1950 until 1963, the economy underwent economic restructuring and then experienced unheard of expansion. During this time, the gross domestic product increased on average by 5.9% per year, peaking at 8.3% in 1961. Italy experienced an economic miracle between 1958 and 1963. During this time, industrial output growth peaked at nearly 10% annually, exceeding only Japan and West Germany in terms of growth rates. The nation had almost full employment, and in 1963, investment amounted to 27% of GDP. The choice to support free market policies and open up foreign trade contributed to the success in part. Italy was a fervent supporter of European integration from the start, which benefited the country's industrial sector, which grew significantly during this time. In a short period of time, certain products such as Olivetti typewriters, Fiat automobiles and Ferraris took control of the European and global marketplaces. After 1963, the economy began to slow down, and then it experienced a decline following a rise in petroleum prices in 1973. But by the late 80s, however, it was again prospering. Although the Italian economy joined the industrialization process relatively late, the region in the north of the country quickly caught up to and surpassed many of its Western European neighbours. But southern Italy lagged behind. Indicators of a country's wealth and degree of industrialization, such as the proportion of its workforce employed in agriculture, are frequently calculated. In Italy's case, the data amply demonstrates the severe disparities between the north and the south. In 2013, 3.6% of Italians worked on the land, compared to 5% of the EU as a whole, with workers in agriculture coming from both the 12 regions in the north and the centre and the 8 regions in the south. Calabria and Basilicata have the largest concentration of farm labourers. But in the second quarter of 2023, Italy's economy unexpectedly shrinks. This is due to several factors, such as rising inflation, supply chain disruptions, and the Russo-Ukrainian war. Even though Italy is not agriculturally self-sufficient, certain products play a significant role in the export market. Notably, the nation leads the globe in the production of olive oil and is a significant exporter of rice, tomatoes, and wine. However, cattle farming is less developed, and meat and dairy products are imported. Italy remains the global hub for the visual arts, literature, music, philosophy, culinary arts, and sciences. It is also a place where the intellectual and moral faculties of humankind have found a warm home. Giuseppe Verdi would say he heard the voices of the ancients and of angels in the music that came to him in his dreams. Michelangelo, the great painter and sculptor, explained that his mission was to liberate an already existing image. Dante fashioned a new language with his unparalleled sculptures of heaven, hell, and the world between. From Leonardo da Vinci to Enzo Ferrari, together with a great number of other Italian authors, musicians, chefs, actors, and filmmakers. These men from this particular nation have made Italy Europe's treasure and the world's heritage. If you've enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos. Stay tuned.